Next, we turn our attention to the big international story of the moment, the death of Pope Francis. The passing of the pontiff at the age of 88 has left Catholics here and around the world in mourning. STV News gathered reaction outside St Mirren's Catholic Cathedral in Paisley.
He never stopped working tirelessly, and he's such an example to us all. To me, I feel it's one of the best popes I've ever. You know, it was a wonderful, wonderful, kind, Christian, loving man.
It's very sad to hear the news, although it was expected. It's still a shock when you hear it. He's the leader of our church, and he's been such a humble man.
I actually felt as though he was actually speaking to you. You know, not just kind of everybody. It was quite personal, I thought.
Someone who met Pope Francis several times was Bishop John Keenan, who is the president of the Bishops' Conference of Scotland. Bishop John, you met Pope Francis many times. Was it possible to get a sense of the man behind the public image?
Yes, certainly. He was like a breath of fresh air. Really, really informal. I met him on a number of occasions. Probably the most significant was when there was all of the 8 bishops of Scotland out to meet him. We spent a morning with him in his private office, and we pulled the chairs around and just sat in a circle with him. And he began by saying, he said, "Look, you can say anything you like to me in here. You can even criticise me to my face if you want." He said, "If you criticise me to my face, that's not a sin." Then he said, "If you do it out there, who knows?" And then it kind of set the tone after that, and it relaxed us. He said, no speeches at all. Let's put those aside. I just want to hear how things are in Scotland. And
so he was aware of Scotland.
He was, yes, very much so. And the questions that we spoke to him about were questions that we found that he was interested in. We spoke about, nuclear weapons that were in Scotland. It's a particular Scottish issue, and he gave us a good bit of advice about those things. And then we spoke about, well, how can we be a church where everyone's involved, all Catholics are involved, not just priests and bishops? And he was really interested and enthusiastic about that.
We've heard he changed the Catholic Church. How did that impact, do you think, churches on the ground, as it were?
Well, he did, didn't he? I mean, he came into the Catholic Church almost like a bolt of lightning. And I know as priests and bishops, he appointed me as a bishop. We were trying to catch up. I think the main thing was he completely changed the tone and the mindset. He was really determined that we wouldn't be a church that was inward looking in a sort of a silo, sort of defending our position. He wanted just to break down all those barriers in the church. He wanted us to be out into the world. He said, I prefer a church that makes mistakes because it's out there, rather than one that's doesn't want to make any mistakes and therefore never engages people.
Some would say that some fundamental changes didn't happen, although he spoke in those terms, that some fundamental changes didn't happen. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, tone is important. Isn't it that if you are welcoming to people, if you want to walk alongside them, if you want to listen to people rather than simply to be starting off pointing the finger to walk alongside, that's already, I think, a huge change. He didn't really change many of the church's teachings. You're right to say that. He was quite, in some respects, quite traditional. In other respects, he was quite, if you want to use the word progressive, about the role of women reaching out to divorced Catholics, to the LGBT community. In other respects, in terms of pro-life and things like that, he was quite traditional and conservative. But over and above all of that, I think his point was find the humanity in the person you're talking to before you start to separate people out into beliefs. We're all human beings. We're all trying to get through this life as best we can. Let's start with that humanity. Let's have a bit of compassion for each other.
Now, he selected most of the cardinals who will be part of the conclave to elect a new pope, but it doesn't necessarily follow that the new pope will be exactly as he was, that these cardinals will choose somebody the same. I mean, he himself was chosen not necessarily by liberal cardinals, as it were. So do we know, or do you have a strong expectation of what the new pope will be?
Well, I mean, one of the adages is that the one who goes into the conclave as a pope comes out a cardinal. I mean, the one thing about conclaves, the amazing thing, if it's an election, you know, it's probably among 2 or 3 people. In a conclave, you have no idea. What we'd probably say is, I think it's going to be someone who, Pope Francis globalised the church. So I think it's going to be someone who has a global sense, a real universal sense, and he wanted to make sure that things are reconciled and not conflictual. So I think it'll be someone who, in this world, also is a reconciler. You,
of course, will be going to Rome for the Pope's funeral on Saturday. How will churches in Scotland be marking that event? So
we've been marking the Pope's passing. So there have been masses in all of the parishes and all of the cathedrals across Scotland in the last day or so. And the thing will happen again on Saturday and Friday evening. We'll be having a mass in my cathedral, and that'll be on Saturday. I think most of the bishops who will be in the country still here will be celebrating mass in their cathedrals. I think Catholics are mourning, they're grieving, but they're grateful for the Pope, and they want to express that. And so they want to be able to come together to be there on the eve before or the day of the funeral. Many will watch the funeral on the television as well.
Bishop John, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.